He woke up already trapped. The machine beside him was screaming before he could. Thin wires tugged at his chest. Something cold burned in his veins. His body wouldn't answer him, not his hands, not his legs, not even his voice. And then he felt that pressure in the room. The kind you feel when someone else controls the outcome. Someone was sitting inches away, not a nurse, not a guard, just stillness, breathing, watching. The lights were low, meant to keep patients calm. They did the opposite. Shadows swallowed the corners of the room, and the figure in the chair didn't move, didn't cough, didn't check a watch, just waited like he'd already won. Thomas Dewey tried to reach for the call button. His fingers twitched and failed. The monitor picked up his fear and tattled on him, beeping faster. That's when the man leaned forward, dark suit, perfectly pressed, hair combed back like it had never known stress. A face Dewey knew better than some members of his own family. A face that lived in indictments, wiretap transcripts, and nightmares whispered by informants who didn't live long. Lucky Luciano, inside a private hospital room, at 2 a.m, while Dewey couldn't move. The imbalance was total. "Easy," Lucky said, calm as a priest behind a confessional screen. "If I wanted you gone, you wouldn't be listening to machines right now." That didn't help. Dewey's mind raced faster than the monitor. How did he get past security? How did he get back into the country? Why now of all moments, when Dewey was barely hanging on by stitched arteries and borrowed time? And the worst question, the one that sat heavy on his chest, if this wasn't about revenge, then what was it about? Because men like Lucky didn't take risks without purpose, and this risk was suicidal. To understand why Lucky Luciano was sitting beside the man who put him away, you have to understand that this wasn't law versus crime. It was personal. It started years earlier when Dewey was still hungry. Back then, he wasn't a headline yet, just a sharp prosecutor with clean cuffs and something to prove. He didn't chase small wins. He hunted symbols. Men whose names carried weight in rooms Dewey wasn't allowed into. Lucky was the biggest symbol of all. Everyone said he couldn't be touched. Too careful, too insulated. He never dirtied his hands, never said anything that could be recorded cleanly. Power flowed through him like electricity through walls, invisible, lethal, impossible to trace. Dewey didn't care. He didn't try to catch Lucky bloody. He tried to catch him responsible. While others chased bodies, Dewey followed money, fear, routine. He watched the women, the collectors, the quiet men who knocked and never raised their voices. He didn't need Lucky pulling a trigger. He needed him standing at the center. It took patience, long nights, witnesses who shook when they spoke and lied when they could. A case everyone told him wouldn't hold. Dewey pushed it anyway. In the courtroom, Lucky never flinched. He treated the trial like weather, inconvenient, temporary. Expensive suits, steady eyes, no outbursts, no fear, just confidence that systems bend for men like him until they didn't. When the verdict came down, Lucky didn't curse, didn't beg, didn't threat. He just locked eyes with Dewey across the room. Not anger, memory. That look followed both of them for years. Prison didn't quiet Lucky. It refined him. He stayed connected. He stayed informed. He stayed dangerous. And while Dewey climbed higher, wearing new titles and shaking cleaner hands, Lucky waited. Then came the deal, freedom with exile attached. Lucky left the country with nothing but time and a mind that never stopped calculating. Dewey believed it was over, a chapter closed, a threat neutralized. He was wrong. Because now, decades later, barely alive in a hospital bed, Dewey realized something terrifying. Lucky hadn't come back for revenge. He'd come back for a reason. And whatever that reason was, Dewey was too weak to stop it. The machine kept beeping. Lucky sat there, silent again, waiting. And Dewey knew whatever happened next would change the meaning of everything that came before. Someone here was about to lose something, and it wasn't clear who yet. Lucky didn't rush the moment. That was always his edge. He let the silence stretch until it hurt, until Dewey's breath shortened and the machines complained louder than either of them spoke. Power didn't need volume, it needed patience. "You look worse than the papers said," Lucky finally murmured. Dewey swallowed. His throat felt like sandpaper. "You shouldn't be here." Lucky nodded once. "That's what makes it interesting." Dewey tried to lift his head, failed. His body had betrayed him completely. Years of courtroom control, of commanding rooms with words reduced to blinking and breathing. "You come to finish something?" Dewey asked. Lucky didn't smile. "If that was my plan, you wouldn't be asking questions." That answer landed heavier than a threat. Lucky leaned back, hands folded, the picture of a man who had already calculated every outcome. "You remember the first time you said my name out loud," he said. "Not in public, in your office, alone." Dewey didn't answer. He remembered. Back then, Lucky was a rumor with teeth, a name whispered by cops who didn't want assignments. A shadow behind half the city's money. Dewey had stared at a photo on his desk and decided that was the man who would make his career or break it. "I didn't hate you," Dewey said quietly. "I did my job." Lucky nodded again. "That's the part that stuck with me." The memory pulled Dewey backward, 18 months of pressure, of watching women walk into court terrified, knowing they were burning bridges they couldn't rebuild, of men who suddenly forgot names and addresses, of envelopes slid across tables and pushed back untouched. Dewey never reached. He didn't bend witnesses, didn't grease jurors, didn't take shortcuts. He let the case move slow and clean, even when it almost died on his desk. That was what hurt Lucky the most, because corruption he understood. Weakness he could manage. But a man who refused both was unpredictable. When the sentence came down, decades, not years, Lucky felt something new, not fear, finality. Prison walls closed in, but his mind stayed free. Orders still moved, money still flowed. And through back channels and half-spoken messages, Lucky watched Dewey turn conviction into momentum. Governor, national figure, untouchable in a different way. Two men rising on opposite sides of the same city. Then the war changed everything. The government needed things they couldn't ask for publicly: access, influence, silence on the docks. Lucky provided it from behind bars, pulling strings the Navy couldn't even see. When the door finally opened for him, it wasn't mercy. It was negotiation. Freedom came with chains of its own. A one-way ticket out. A promise never to return. America locked behind him like a door he'd never stopped testing. Years passed, then Dewey collapsed. Lucky saw the headline in Italy and didn't react the way his people expected. No jokes, no toasts, just quiet reading, over and over, because dying men told the truth without meaning to. Lucky made the call that same night. "I need to go back." They told him it was madness, that the border would eat him alive, that one mistake would put him in a cell forever. Lucky packed anyway. Now he sat in the hospital room, the past and present folded together like a loaded weapon. "You took 10 years from me," Lucky said softly, "and my country." Dewey exhaled, "And I'd do it again." Lucky considered that. "I know." He stood, walked closer to the bed. Dewey tensed, every instinct screaming, but Lucky stopped short. "I didn't come for payback," Lucky said. "I came because I needed to look at you and make sure I understood something." "What?" Lucky's eyes narrowed, measuring. "Whether you were ever dirty." The question hung between them like a knife. Dewey met his stare. "No." Lucky studied his face, the lines, the exhaustion, the honesty that hadn't cracked even now. Finally, Lucky reached into his jacket. Dewey flinched. The movement was small, instinctive, but Lucky noticed. He didn't pull a gun. He pulled out an envelope, thick, heavy, deliberate, and placed it on the table beside the bed. Dewey stared at it, heart hammering. "What is this?" he whispered. Lucky stepped back toward the door. "Something you didn't earn from me. And something I owe you anyway." Before Dewey could speak again, Lucky's hand touched the handle. The door creaked slightly. Footsteps echoed somewhere in the hallway. And for the first time since Lucky walked in, time ran out. Someone was coming, and Lucky still hadn't explained why he'd risked everything to be there. The footsteps passed, slow, indifferent, a nurse heading toward another room. The guard outside shifted in his chair but didn't wake. The world kept breathing, unaware of the crime taking place in plain sight. Lucky didn't move until the danger faded. Then he spoke, low enough that only the machines could overhear. "You know what that envelope is," he said. Dewey shook his head slightly. "I won't touch it." Lucky didn't argue. He never argued when he didn't need to. "Good." That means you're still you. He turned fully now, facing the bed again. No triumph, no softness either, just clarity. I spent years replaying your case, Lucky continued. Not because I lost. I've lost before. I replayed it because there was no rot in it. Dewey's chest tightened. You think that makes us even? Lucky's mouth twitched, not a smile. No, there's no even, there's just accounting. He nodded toward the envelope. That's medical money, nothing more. Your heart's damaged. You'll need specialists. The kind insurance won't rush to approve. Delays kill men faster than bullets. That money is dirty, Dewey said. Lucky shook his head once. It's older than dirt. It's already been washed by time, and if it makes you sleep better, give it away. Dewey stared at the ceiling. His pulse steadied, then spiked again. Why now? Lucky paused. This time the silence meant something. Because men like us don't get many honest moments, he said, and I didn't want mine wasted on regret. Dewey turned his eyes toward him. You're saying this is respect. Lucky met his gaze. I'm saying it's recognition. He stepped closer, stopping just outside arm's reach. You could have taken a bribe. Plenty of men would have. You could have cut corners and still called it justice, but you didn't. That doesn't make me your friend, Dewey said. Lucky nodded. No, it makes you dangerous. Another pause. You cost me my kingdom, Lucky added, but you did it clean, that matters. Dewey felt something crack, not fear, not anger, something harder to name. You expect forgiveness. Lucky's eyes hardened. I don't expect anything, that's why I'm leaving. He turned toward the door again, already mentally gone. Burn the money, donate it, lie about where it came from, I don't care. He opened the door a fraction, then stopped. One more thing, Lucky said without turning. If anyone ever asks you if you saw me tonight. I didn't, Dewey said. Lucky closed his eyes briefly. I knew you'd say that. The door opened. The hallway swallowed him, shoes whispering against tile, coat blending into night staff and shadows. Gone, Dewey lay there staring at the envelope. His hands trembled now, not from weakness but from something closer to awe or dread. The machines returned to their steady rhythm. Morning came slowly. A nurse found the envelope first, asked questions. Dewey denied everything with the same calm certainty he'd once used on witnesses who didn't understand the danger they were in. His wife arrived later. She saw it immediately. Thomas, she said softly, what is that? He told her the truth. She didn't believe him at first. Then she saw the handwriting folded inside. 3 short lines, careful, controlled, final. Her knees buckled as she sat in the chair beside the bed. What do we do with it? She asked. Dewey closed his eyes. Give it away, quietly. To who? Children, he said. Hospitals. Why anonymously? Because if anyone knows where it came from, Dewey replied, they'll poison it with meaning. Months passed. Dewey healed, slowly, painfully, but he healed. The specialists found what others had missed. His life stretched forward instead of stopping. He never spoke of that night. Years later, news arrived from overseas. Lucky Luciano collapsed in an airport, heart finally giving out where no deal could save him. When Dewey heard, he didn't celebrate. He stared out a window for a long time. He saved me, he said finally. His wife asked how. He told her the part he'd never admitted before. And still, he kept the secret, because some stories aren't meant to be understood. They're meant to sit in the dark where enemies meet as equals once, and never again. Time wore the edges down, but it never erased the night. Dewey lived longer than anyone expected. The heart held. The scars stayed. He returned to public life thinner, quieter, sharper in a way cameras couldn't quite catch. People thought the heart attack humbled him. It complicated him. He never spoke Lucky's name again in public, never corrected anyone who called him ruthless, never explained why certain battles no longer interested him. Power, he'd learned, didn't always need to be exercised. Sometimes it just needed to be understood. The money vanished the way he said it would. No press, no plaques, no quiet bragging, just lives improved without knowing why. But the note stayed. His wife kept it hidden in a drawer no one else opened. 3 lines. No signature, no date, just truth written by a man who never wasted ink. Years passed. One night near the end, Dewey finally broke his own rule. A reporter sat across from him, off the record, no tape, no witnesses. The kind of conversation that only happens when legacies are already decided. Dewey told him everything: the hospital, the coat, the envelope, the respect. The reporter leaned forward, eyes wide. People need to hear this. Dewey shook his head. They'd misunderstand it. They'd call it redemption, the reporter said. They'd be wrong. Silence settled between them. What was it then? The reporter asked. Dewey's voice dropped. Two men who refused to cheat, even when cheating would have been easier. The reporter never published a word. When Dewey died, the world got its clean ending. Obituaries, tributes, simple lines about justice and service. No footnotes, no shadows. The truth stayed buried until much later. His wife lived longer than anyone predicted, sharp to the end. When her time came, she called her daughter close and opened the drawer. She told her the story the way it was told to her, without romance, without excuses. "Your father wanted me to destroy this," she said, handing over the paper. "I couldn't." "Why keep it?" her daughter asked. "Because it proved something," she replied. "Proved what?" That even in a world built on sides, lines blur. That sometimes your enemy sees you clearer than your allies ever will. The daughter read the note, folded it carefully. "What happened to it?" she asked. Her mother smiled faintly. "Time happened. The paper is gone now. Lost, burned, misplaced, or never real to begin with, depending on who you ask. All that remains is the story. Some say it's legend. Others swear it's fact. But somewhere between those two lays a quiet hospital room at 2 in the morning. A gangster who risked everything. A prosecutor who couldn't move. And a moment that didn't fit into good or evil. Just respect. And that's the part no one knows what to do with.